So we have been hearing a lot about this thing called a Rubicon, the thing which we cannot cross, because if we cross the Rubicon, there's no going back. For many people, the Rubicon is the dismantling of the rule of law in America, which would be evidenced by, for example, a judge giving an order to the Trump regime and the Trump regime saying, "You in what army?" I personally think we crossed the Rubicon in November of 2016, but what do I know? And then I think we crossed another one after January 6th, 2021, and then another when the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court decided that Donald Trump and Donald Trump alone was above the law and deserved an imperial presidency, which tens of millions of Americans granted him. I think we crossed another one when said Americans essentially said to Donald Trump, "We liked your insurrection, and it is complete." So obviously, it will be terrible if we cross another one of those Rubicon cons. Who knows what the plural is? There's only supposed to be one. Now, the question is, since we are now heading into perhaps, I've lost count, but our 5th, 7th, 10th constitutional crisis, is anything going to happen in the next few months or years that will enable us to find our way back? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is wonderful to have you with me on a day in which we are facing yet another constitutional crisis. I apologize for the delay. With new technology comes new problems, but it's all good. Thank you for your patience, and I'm happy to be here. All right, let's start where with that new crisis we're facing. On March 15th, 2025, the ACLU and Democracy Forward filed a lawsuit arguing that Donald is misusing the so-called Alien Enemies Act. This is a wartime law that I think was passed, I don't know precisely, I think 1769 or something. It's a wartime law to justify mass deportations in peacetime. On March 16th, Donald invoked the Alien Enemies Act to deport non-citizens without judicial review, citing Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang as a quote unquote invading force. By labeling Latin American gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, Donald is attempting to justify the use of wartime powers for deportations, though legal experts say this move has no precedent. Yeah, well, those of us who've been paying attention understand that precedent is out the window. Anyway, the Trump regime finalized a $6 million agreement with El Salvador to imprison 300 alleged gang members. That deal was signed prior to the March 16th deportations. On March 17, 2025, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg issued a temporary restraining order blocking Donald from deporting Venezuelan migrants under this law. But by then, 250 alleged gang members had already been sent to El Salvador, sparking concerns that the Trump regime was intent upon ignoring the judge's order. Yeah, that's pretty much where we've been heading for quite some time now. Boasberg's order required any plane deporting affected individuals to return to U.S. soil immediately. At the time, 2 flights were already en route to El Salvador and Honduras. And Caroline Leavitt, the execrable press secretary, of course, lied to the American people because that's all she knows how to do. Take a look.
Just to follow up really quickly on just Homan's comments from earlier. A few weeks ago in the Oval Office, the president said he will always abide by the courts. We heard what Tom Homan said earlier today. So I'm only asking just to be clear for the American people. It is the administration's belief that that you feel like you were bound to comply by the judge's orders?
We are complying with the judge's orders.
No, you're not. No, you're not. And that's the Rubicon. That is the slippery slope that's now a cliff. We're heading towards the pavement. In that same press conference, Leavitt insisted the ruling was illegitimate, denying that Donald defied the court order and claiming the migrants had already left U.S. soil before it was issued. So, which begs the question, if it was an illegitimate order, according to you, and who knows better than you, why follow it? And then why lie about when the migrants were sent out of the country? When pressed on whether the administration complied with the judge's decision, Donald dodged. It's like the most moving he usually does, saying, quote, "You'd have to ask the lawyers," unquote.
Is the administration prepared to give the court what it wants in terms of the time of the flights that departed, that went to El Salvador, and some of those details that the judge is asking for in trying to determine the timing?
All of the planes that were subject to the written order, the judge's written order, took off before the order was entered in the courtroom on Saturday. And the administration will, of course, be happily answering all of those questions that the judge poses in court later today.
But what about the verbal order, which of course carries the same legal weight as a written order, and said for the planes to turn around if they were in the air?
There's actually questions about whether a verbal order carries the same weight as a legal order, as a written order, and our lawyers are determined to ask and answer those questions in court.
It'd be even more impressive if you could actually hear what I was saying. Anyway, I hope I should give you a trigger warning for honesty, because it happens so rarely and you're probably not prepared. Although I'm willing to concede that it may have been a Freudian slip. But just very quickly, this whole written order, spoken order, one's legitimate, one's not. Like that's what we're left with here. That kind of bullshit so-called reasoning. But anyway, getting back to this moment of truth. Or, again, some kind of psychological slip-up. Leavitt also mentioned that the real reason behind the restructuring of the Department of Justice.
We want to restore the Department of Justice to an institution that focuses on fighting law and order and crime and putting real criminals behind bars, not targeting Americans because of their religion or their political speech. We saw that under the previous administration, and it's unacceptable to this president.
And just
Wait. What? Well, all right. Not targeting Americans because of their religious beliefs. What planet is she from? I don't get how somebody who can seemingly function in the world is capable of that kind of breathtaking insanity. I don't know how else to put it. The Trump regime is dedicated to targeting Americans. Like, that is the entire raison d'etre, if you'll forgive me, for this regime. Donald ran for re-election to stay out of prison. Absolutely. But once he won, he and his fascist minions have constructed this mechanism that is solely designed for retribution and vengeance. So the idea that is not what's happening, that she can present this as something that is completely factually accurate and grounded in some kind of reality, is like, it stuns even me, and it kind of takes a lot to stun me. And it's only going to get worse. We're seeing that happen every day, which we're going to get to. Meanwhile, speaking of getting worse, we have to talk about Tom Homan The little fascist whose borders are and likes to be cruel to people. Somebody Donald really likes. Homan went on Fox State TV, not surprisingly, to defend the deportations because, speaking of raison d'etre, that's him.
We made a promise to the American people. The President Trump has made a promise to American people. We're going to make this country safe again. I wake up every morning loving my job because I work for the greatest president in the history of my life, and we're going to make this country safe again. I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
Uh-oh. He loves his job so much because every morning he gets to make people's lives miserable. He gets to ruin people's lives. And I think there are two ways to tell what kind of person you're dealing with. It's a great shortcut, right? If you want to know what kind of person you're dealing with. Did you vote for Donald? Not ever, because, let's be fair, but this time. And do you think he's a great president? That's all I need to know to call it. Of course, this case almost certainly is going to reach the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority on the Supreme Court. And personally, that for me, I know you're only supposed to have one Rubicon, but I'm greedy. That's another Rubicon. Because we do not know. We don't know what that corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court will decide on issues like this, which in any other era, post-Reconstruction, well, maybe not, post-Plessy versus Ferguson, I don't know, post-something would be a no-brainer and a slam dunk. Meanwhile, Leave It continues defending the administration's actions because that's what she gets paid for. So let's take a look at what she had to say about how the Trump regime justified shipping alleged gang members to El Salvador.
What criteria, though, other than, say, tattoos or maybe being in the wrong place at the wrong time, are they using to determine that someone is actually a member of one of these organizations?
Intelligence and the men and women on the ground in the interior of our country who are finally being allowed to do their jobs. Their hands were tied under the previous administration, and as I said, they take their jobs very seriously. They should be trusted and respected by the American public with this operation. And of course, as I said to Kelly, the administration will provide all details to the questions that the court poses. Jennifer.
No, I don't have to trust them, and I don't. Anybody who would work for that regime, anybody who'd work for Donald Trump, including her, is not at all somebody I trust with anything. So, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg ordered 5 Venezuelan men accused of gang ties to be returned to the United States. After Representative Brandon Gill, Republican of Texas, announced plans to file articles of impeachment against a judge who made a ruling he didn't like. Musk, of course, endorsed that effort with a one-word post on Twitter, quote unquote, necessary, because we need to be listening to this pro-apartheid asshole about what is good for this country, apparently. Initially, focused on the 5 Venezuelan men, Boasberg later expanded his ruling to cover all non-citizens in U.S. custody being deported under Donald's order, escalating the legal showdown, or, I don't know, doing his job. The ACLU is now asking the judge to make Donald testify that he did, in fact, go against the judge's orders. This is obviously an extraordinarily important story. It's ongoing, and we will keep you updated as it unfolds. But I have to be honest with you. In what world is Donald Trump going to testify? Or if he does, in what world is he going to be made to tell the truth? Or if he does not, if he perjures himself, in what world is he going to be held accountable? Because he never has been in this world. He has been given a pass by the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court in their egregious, tragic, heartbreaking ruling last year. He is somebody who clearly cannot be held to account. So what happens? What happens then? Another Rubicon, I guess. That, of course, is not the only legal battle Donald is facing. They are legion at this point. While his immigration policies are being challenged in court, his foreign policy blunders are also under scrutiny, especially when it comes to his horrific handling of Ukraine. And notice I didn't say mishandling because he's doing it on purpose. Either that or, Putin's grip on his leash has gotten much tighter than it used to be. So remember, this was during the election when Donald was still campaigning. He guaranteed that he would end the war in 24 hours. In fact, he wasn't even going to wait until he was sworn in on January 20th. No. He was going to end the war while Joe Biden was still president the day after the election. Well, it turns out he wasn't exactly serious. Now, of course, he's backpedaling. So basically, let's look at I'm going to take a look at this clip and then talk about it after.
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. I know Zelensky well. I know Putin well. I would get that ended in a period of 24
You can break that deal.
100%. It would be easy. That deal would be easy. A lot of it has to do with the money. A lot of it has to do with the military, that we're giving. But I would get that deal done within 24 hours. That war has to be stopped. That war is a disaster.
Yeah, it's always a disaster when what used to be an enemy of America invades what used to be an ally of America. Yeah, that's a disaster when a hostile foreign power seizes territory from a country illegally and then commits horrific war crimes against its people. That's pretty terrible. Horrific. Horrible. But he's going to spin it however he spins it. And last I checked, it's hard to tell. I have to be honest with you. Time is weird. Time has become, it is no longer a linear thing. I'm pretty sure, I think I can say with some certainty, though, that it has been more than 24 hours since that interview. It actually feels interminable. Because it has been. In an interview that aired last Friday, Donald admitted he was being a little bit sarcastic when he repeatedly claimed he could end the Russia-Ukraine war in a day. Is that a thing about which one is sarcastic? I mean, I'm fairly well versed in the art of sarcasm. And I'm trying to think if I would ever be sarcastic about making a promise to do something relatively important, like end a war. Take a look at this.
But as a candidate, you said you would have this war settled in 24 hours.
Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. I would. What I really mean is I'd like to get it settled.
That clears it all up, and that's hysterical. He does the sarcasm thing so well, you can't even tell that's what he's doing. Despite his lying about all of this, of course, the Trump regime is still struggling to broker resolution, proving that his pledge wasn't only empty rhetoric, but that he also has no real strategy because, I know I repeat myself, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He never does. And he's never using the right metrics by which to measure the worth of doing something or doing it well. He's also incapable of doing anything well. Steve Witkoff is Donald's envoy, and he's been in Moscow this week for discussions on a U.S. proposed ceasefire, which Ukraine has accepted, but Putin has yet to agree to. And I'm not sure why Putin would agree to anything right now. When asked what happens if Putin refuses a ceasefire, Donald dodged specifics, instead saying he believes Putin will accept because, quote, I think I know him pretty well, unquote. Oh, that's so simple. I wish I'd thought of that. So this is what Donald had to say after news sources reported that Witkoff had to wait for 9 hours before the meeting took place. Quote, the fake news, as usual, is at it again. Why can't they be honest just for once? Last night, I read that President Vladimir Putin of Russia kept my highly respected ambassador and special envoy, Steve Witkoff, waiting for over 9 hours when, in fact, There was no wait whatsoever. Other meetings with representatives of Russia did take place, and obviously they took some time, but they were very productive. From there, things went quickly and efficiently, and all signs seemed to be hopefully very good. In conclusion, there was no 9-hour wait or any wait at all. The only reason they made up that story is to try and demean because they are sick degenerates. Sorry, that seems over the top even for him, that have to start reporting the news correctly. This is why they have lost their ratings, their audience, and respect. Thank you for your attention to this matter and blah, 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 blah. Please shut up. Yeah, that seems a bit of it, methinks the lady, etc. I can't imagine why he's so defensive that one of his minions was kept waiting by his handler. That must have stung. So it turns out that the majority of Americans support Ukraine. Because good. However, I don't know that it matters anymore what the American people think about anything. Because again, we're not in charge of anything. Even the people who voted for him and claim now not to have voted for this have no say in anything. There are no town halls on the Republican side anymore because they don't like listening to their constituents berate them for destroying their country or taking away their benefits or making things, pesky luxury items like food unaffordable. But, it's not just Donald's weak stance on Ukraine. Every time and time again, kind of no matter what, his actions keep proving where his loyalties really lie. So again, while most Americans support Ukraine, nearly half believe Donald favors Russia, and for good reason. His policies, his rhetoric, his coziness with Putin, his history with Putin going back to the 1980s, all send the same message. But Donald isn't just helping foreign adversaries. He's making it easier for corrupt elites to hide their money right here at home. And again, not shocking because we're really not supposed to be shocked or surprised, but still, the word chutzpah comes to mind. Just take a look at what his Treasury Department announced on Sunday. It announced that it will no longer enforce penalties or fines under the Corporate Transparency Act, effectively killing a rule designed to expose shell companies and prevent financial crimes. Because, who, at least named Trump, other than me, doesn't like a good shell company or a financial crime? By halting enforcement of beneficial ownership reporting, the Trump regime is making it easier for corporations and the ultra-rich to obscure their financial dealings, shielding them from public scrutiny. Donald, of course, took to his failing social media company to praise the move, calling the Biden-era rule an absolute disaster. I wish he would please, for God's sakes, come up with new material, because it's driving me crazy. Yes, an absolute disaster for small businesses like nothing we've ever seen before, and claiming it would be permanently suspended. Quote, exciting news. The Treasury Department has announced that it's going to let me be as corrupt as those were my notes. Starting over. The Treasury Department has announced that they are suspending all enforcement of the outrageous, invasive, beneficial ownership information reporting requirement for U.S. citizens. This Biden rule has been an absolute disaster for small businesses nationwide. Furthermore, Treasury is now finalizing an emergency regulation to formally suspend this rule for American businesses. The economic menace of BOI reporting will soon be no more, unquote. In other words, laundering money for Russian oligarchs in the 80s and 90s and aughts made me really, really rich. And I want to be able to keep doing it. And who's going to stop me? Nobody. Donald isn't just dismantling financial transparency laws, he's also ramping up military aggression. Oh, wait a minute. That sounds wrong. How could that be? He hates war, right? Like the whole thing was like he's going to end all the wars. He's going to end all the fighting everywhere, right? The illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine ended in 24 hours. Afghanistan, what a horror. What a horror that Joe Biden committed. All the wars are so bad. However, what he does like to celebrate is letting corporations hide their money. So he's simultaneously escalating tensions in the Middle East, launching airstrikes in Yemen, and threatening Iran, which, by the way, by backing out of the JCPOA, he put even closer to developing nuclear weapons with quote unquote overwhelming lethal force. That sounds peaceful. On Sunday, Donald ordered airstrikes on Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen following Houthi attacks on American shipping vessels, and he warned Iran to beware and threatened, as mentioned, overwhelming lethal force, which is, again, a very pacifist thing to say. And this, of course, is if they continue to support the Houthis. Here's what Pete Hegseth, the most unfortunate Secretary of Defense, had to say. Play the clip.
We are pounding them militarily. By the way, to the Houthis, this isn't a one-night thing. This will continue until you say we're done shooting at ships, we're done shooting at assets. We don't want a long, limited war in the Middle East. We don't care what happens in the Yemeni civil war. This is about stopping the shooting at assets in that critical waterway to reopen freedom of navigation, which is a core national interest of the United States. And Iran has been enabling the Houthis for far too long. They better back off.
We don't care about a civil war that happens in another country that we should be interested in. That sounds very superpowery of us. So Mike Waltz, Donald's national security advisor, refused to rule out military action against Iran, stating, quote, all options are always on the table, unquote. Good to know. The Trump regime claims Iran's support for Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iraqi militias is unacceptable. And I agree, it is unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. However, you know what else is unacceptable? Enabling Nazis, being a fascist, deporting immigrants because you're a racist, ignoring judges' orders, committing insurrection against your own government, being a traitor. You get the idea. Oh, well, that's pretty unacceptable too. On Friday, Tesla sent an unsigned letter to U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer, warning that Donald's tariffs could trigger global retaliation and severely damage the U.S. auto industry. Maybe they should have thought of that sooner. The lack of a signature has fueled speculation over who authored the letter, though its warnings were clear. Quote, other countries may target specific companies and industries, unquote, potentially slapping retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods whenever Donald imposes levies on them. While Tesla stated it supports fair trade, it cautioned the administration to ensure it does not inadvertently harm U.S. companies. The letter's vague authorship stands in contrast to, that guy, Tesla's CEO, which kind of boggles the mind, and his deep ties to Donald, raising questions about whether the company is trying to distance itself from his policies while also benefiting from White House influence. Given Musk's close role in reshaping and basically destroying government policy, the letter's unsigned nature only deepens the controversy over Tesla's position in the escalating trade war. In other Doge news, in February of this year, Leonard Ned Johnson of Seattle was incorrectly declared deceased by Social Security, leading to the clawback of $5,201 from his bank account and the cancellation of his Medicare and a deceased credit rating. Johnson spent 3 weeks battling the Social Security system, repeatedly calling without success. He finally forced his way into an overwhelmed Seattle office where he proved he was alive. I don't know, I guess by being alive? But he had to show them his passport and be really persistent about it. I mean, is this a Monty Python sketch? I'm not dead. Honestly, Monty Python was infinitely funnier than anything we're dealing with right now. The Social Security office Johnson visited is, of course, set to close under Doge. Yeah, it's the cost-cutting thing, because who needs that nonsense? If we say you're dead, you're dead. Okay? Johnson described understaffed and overburdened employees struggling with a long line of frustrated citizens. Social Security labeled the incident an erroneous death determination. But no one could explain how Johnson ended up on the death master file. There's such a thing called a death master file. We really know how to name things in this country, don't we? And there's also no way to know how many others might be affected. But, I'm guessing it's not enough people to counteract the 20 million dead people who are still getting Social Security. Anyway, it's quite serious, because that there are people who rely solely on Social Security to do, again, frivolous things like feed themselves and shelter themselves. Errors like this could leave them homeless. So concerns, of course, are being raised that Musk's cuts are destabilizing essential government functions. Yeah, but guys, that's the point. This is the whole point. Because if we're all under siege at once, and we're all being attacked in very different ways, whether it's financially or in terms of our security or in terms of our jobs, what have you, how can we pay attention? How can we stay connected? How can we weather this storm if we are constantly fighting our rear guard, or constantly worried about the next day and the next and the next, without any certainty of where we're going to end up? Donald, who's just been on a tear lately, and I would be remiss if I did not once again thank former Democrat Chuck Schumer and the 9 other traitorous former Democrats who looked at all of this, who looked at the whole playing field here and thought this was all a good idea. As always, thank you so much for your clear-sightedness and vision. So yes, in a move right out of an authoritarian playbook, Donald declared Biden's final pardons void today, claiming, and this is another just brilliant bit of obfuscation and justification. They were signed with an autopen. That's a device for replicating signatures, because some people have to sign their names a lot, and unlike Donald, they don't like doing it. He'll sign anything. He's claiming that because these pardon documents were signed with an autopen, Biden did not know anything about them.
Like we had an autopen for a president, and we would have been better off if we had, probably. But it looks to me like, that's a big subject. I'm sure you won't ask about that, but the whole subject of autopen, did he know what he was doing? Did he authorize it? Or is there somebody in an office, maybe a radical left lunatic, designing whatever that person wants? That's not what it's all about. I never use it. We may use it as an example to send some young person a letter. It's nice, we get thousands and thousands of letters of support for young people, for people that aren't feeling well, etc. But to sign pardons and all of the things that he signed with an autopen is disgraceful.
I will only use an autopen and not actually sign the thing when it's something that has meaning for somebody else. That's so sweet. Also, Donald, I like to do this when I can. It doesn't happen very often because I hate you, but you look terrible. Might want to do something about that. Yeah. So, all right. I also have a confession. I'm the radical left lunatic who was who stole President Biden's autopen. Actually, that's not true. If I had, I would have pardoned a lot more people who were in prison for ridiculously petty crimes. Oh, well. The preemptive pardons covered members of the January 6th Committee, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and former Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley, aiming to protect them from Trump regime prosecutions. That seems so prescient. Heritage Foundation fuels the autopen conspiracy because the Heritage Foundation has been incredibly emboldened ever since its fascist playbook, Project 2025, has been adopted whole cloth. No, wrong. Wholesale. That's the term. So, because I think they have way too much time on their hands and actually enjoy coming up with this creative nonsense just to throw more sand in the gears. They analyzed Biden's. It's embarrassing. Seriously, you guys. I know that this is something I say more often than anybody should. But are your lives so bereft of meaning that you think that this is a meaningful use of your time? Seriously. They analyzed Biden's signature and claimed they were all identical, implying that they were machine generated rather than personally signed by Biden. Oh no. Missouri AG and GOP leaders seize on the whole cognitive decline narrative. Who's in the White House now? Just checking. Andrew Bailey, the Missouri AG, and House Speaker Mike Johnson have suggested that it was because of Biden's declining faculties, that his unelected staff, unelected staff alert, that his unelected staff were allowed to sign executive orders without his knowledge. Isn't it a shame when unelected people are allowed to run roughshod over our government? So wonderful that that's not happening during the Trump regime. That insult to injury, Donald put this image of an auto pen up next to his mugshot portrait in the Oval Office. To which I say again, Donald, is your life so bereft of meaning that is what you consider good use of your time? And I have to be honest, it's probably a much better use of your time than golfing, because no matter how many billions of hours you spent on that bloody sport, you are so terrible at it that it is the only thing in my entire life that has made me almost, but not quite, feel really bad for you, because it's pathetic, you loser. Okay, guess what I need right now? I need pandas. That's a baby. It's not a bowling ball. What are you doing? I'm so glad that the heading told us it was about funny pets, because I wouldn't have figured it out. Oh, wow. All right. Let's move on. Thanks again for your patience at the top of the show. We really appreciate it. Okay. Let's start here. Christopher, awesome. Thank you so much. Comment. Thanks so much, Mary. You're welcome. I plan on going to Senator Warren's town hall tomorrow and giving her a piece of my mind about the lack of solidarity in the Democratic Party fighting for democracy. Yeah, please do. Now, obviously, Senator Warren voted the right way last week. She did not vote with the fascists, so that's huge. However, yeah, the biggest problem right now is that the Democrats are not united. I do not understand this. They have fascism to unite against. And instead, what we're seeing are these internecine battles, these stupid, quite frankly, in the grand scheme of things, inabilities to put aside whatever their differences are and come together and say, you know what's more important? Fighting fascism. And she's a smart woman. So I would be very, very curious to know what she has to say. So report back. And I hope you get your question in. Which broom? Sorry. Which broom? I get it. Thank you very much. Comment, not enough sage for this 47 term. No. And a witch would know about such things. There is not enough sage. Like in the history of sage, there's not enough sage. I think the next person, hopefully, you know what I mean, who gets in the, I think they should just, you know what would be a great idea? Just raise the White House to the ground and rebuild it without the labor of the stolen labor of enslaved peoples. Wouldn't that be fabulous? Yeah, I love that idea. And maybe put the Black Lives Matters Plaza on the front lawn of the People's House. Huh? See, I'm planning ahead. Yeah, because you're right. Sage is not going to do it. Annie, thank you so much, Annie. Comment, smell the flowers and blow out the candles, deep breath. Absolutely. I mean, especially if it's somebody's birthday, like that sounds like a reasonable thing to do, but we should all be smelling flowers and breathing deeply. Sometimes it's a little hard to do the latter, but it's a good reminder. So thank you, Annie. His Divine Scadu. Cool. Thank you so much. Question. Doctor, will we have fair elections with Musk? We haven't had one yet. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence. Because 10 Democrats threw away the only leverage the Democratic Party had to stand up against this horror. And Musk has such enormous influence and so much reach and so much power and so much money that it's difficult to imagine that he can be contained. You know, we know that he spent some like $290 million in very targeted ways, especially in Pennsylvania, to get his desired result. And we also know that Donald several times bragged about just how good Elon was with the computers during the election. And what did we get in response? It's all baked in. What are you going to do? Well, somebody needs to do something. Terry, question, was at a local library today. Happy to report nothing has changed. That is a relief. I'm deeply worried about our libraries, which are among our most vital and important institutions. Also, just by the way, librarians rock. They seriously are awesome. And they know what matters, and they protect our books, and they protect our children's right to have access to them. Do not mess with a librarian. Rick Robin, thank you so very much for that, Rick. Comment. Donald's ally in the Philippines, ex-President Rodrigo Duterte, had been arrested and sent to The Hague for crimes against humanity. Well, yeah, see, it happens. Not in America, apparently. We like our criminals too much. We like to look forward, not back. That's worked out very well for us. Yes, just ask the descendants of the enslaved peoples I mentioned earlier. It's worked out really well for them. Claire, thank you very much, Claire. Comment. I've been singing. Thanks for nesting it. Will the real Donald Trump please shut up? I think that's something we could all start a chorus and just sing that constantly. I think somebody should get a bunch of those vans that have speakers on top of them, like on the roofs. I think that's what the top of a van is called, the roof. And just circle anywhere he is. Usually it's at Mar-a-Lago. Usually it's at a golf course that we're paying for. And usually he's cheating. But sound carries. Circling him, repeating that over and over and over again. And also, like I would request adding some verses. Call him a loser, say he's pathetic, and doesn't have money. He hates that. And of course, call him Donald. AJ Vintage comment, Tesla takedown online event March 19th by direct action everywhere, campaign to bankrupt Musk. Okay, well, it's impossible to bankrupt him. I'm very sorry. Once you have almost $500 billion, I think you're set. I mean, as long as he doesn't live too long, as long as he doesn't live past like 4 million years old, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll get by if he's planned well and has a good IRA. But there's just no bankrupting him. However, we can take Tesla down, and that will diminish him. He will take a hit for that in some ways. I have to be honest. I'm a little shocked that they are keeping him on as CEO. I would think the board would have a thing or two to say about that, but I guess there's I guess Tesla stocks can lose more. So let's find out and do that thing. Thank you. Crazy Fingers Dark Star. Oh, I like this comment. All caps. Thank you. Click the like button. Support Mary Trump. Support Mary Trump Media for sure. I mean, if you support me too, that's cool. Thank you. But support independent media. Absolutely. Susan comment, I haven't heard Donald say anything about the people who lost their homes in the latest tornadoes. Susan, I mean, the little generosity here. He was busy. He was really busy. He had to play in a golf tournament. And he didn't just have to play in a golf tournament. He had to cheat so much so he could win the golf tournament. He doesn't have time for dead and dying Americans. Tornadoes? That's boring. He's a vile monster, sadly, and he doesn't care about other human beings. So yeah, you're right. He didn't say anything. He said nothing. One of his minions sent out a meaningless, whatever it was, tweet or what have you, that lacked all sincerity, empathy, and humanity. In other words, it sounded like Donald, except for relatively good grammar and relatively normal capitalizations. It's grotesque, but I guess that's baked in too, right? You expect them to be. Oh, sorry. Well, let me thank you now. Christina, super sticker. That's really generous of you. Thanks very much. We appreciate it. Just me. Thanks as always. Australia, the house. Comment. So there's a party in Australia now called Trumpet of Patriot. Oh, Jesus. See what they did there? Their ads are incomprehensible. Well, because they're channeling Donald, I'm assuming. So of course they are. It's de rigueur, don't you know? Nancy, thank you so much, Nancy. Comment, yeah. I work in disaster relief and recovery. Climate change is causing year-round extreme weather events. If we lose NOAA, that will be devastating. Yes, it will be. And I am sorry to say, I believe we will be losing NOAA. For those who don't know, NOAA, I always get this wrong, but I'll try. NOAA is the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. And it is a vitally important organization comprised largely of meteorologists who track things like devastating hurricanes, so people on the ground can be alerted to what is heading their way, to help them prepare, to let them know how they should prepare. Do they need to evacuate? How severe are these storms going to get? When are they going to lose their power, et cetera? It's extraordinarily important. And back during his first administration, they hurt Donald's feelings by contradicting an incorrect statement he gave. So, and he's also gunning to get rid of FEMA because he thinks that FEMA is just a pile of money that gets thrown at people in disaster areas, because he doesn't understand how helping people works, because he's never helped anybody in his very long and very miserable life. F. Leah comment, Donald won't send FEMA to the tornado victims. No, he won't, because one, he's been cutting the funding for FEMA and basically crippling it. And two, he wants to get rid of it. So why bother? Nancy, again, thank you so much. Super sticker. That's great. KJA, Cannon in the house. Thanks, guys, for everything you're doing. Comment, I have a terrible uncle as well. Stay strong, Mary. Yeah, well, I empathize. Hopefully yours is as distant from you as mine is from me and wreaking infinitely less havoc. Well, of course he is, because it would be weird if you were able to wreak as much havoc as Donald. So sorry. Jeffrey, thank you, Jeffrey. Question: could you give Caroline Leavitt a funny voice? If we change the voices of everybody who offended us, there would be a lot of funny voices. But yeah, I agree. For reasons I don't quite understand. Nails on a chalkboard. I would rather. God, can't believe I'm saying this. I'd rather listen to Donald unaltered than her. That's really bad. Rick Robin, thank you so much, Rick. Comment: Canadians aren't angry at you, and you understand. Yes, I do understand. I think Canadians rock, and Canadians also understand that most of us are support them unequivocally, and we also appreciate your Canada's history of being our closest, best ally, an ally that's been there for us without question. So yeah, we understand, and we know you guys understand. And again, I don't like saying this, but you were attacked. You're the victims of Canada's a victim of an unprovoked unilateral attack by Donald Trump with a stupid trade war. And you guys need to do whatever you have to do to protect you, even if that means not buying American-made goods anymore. I support you wholeheartedly in that endeavor. Edie, super sticker. Thank you so much, Edie. Michael, thank you, Michael. Comment at tip of the old hat to you, Barry. Thanks. Curious what kind of hat. A fedora, perhaps. I don't know. Pamela, super sticker. Thanks, Pamela. That's really generous, and we appreciate it. Carolyn, super sticker. Thank you so very much. It's great. I'm not sure if I missed this. Jill, super sticker. Thank you, Jill. That's fantastic as well. Cindy, super sticker. Thank you, Cindy. Sorry. Gil, super sticker. Thanks very much for that. Chris, question: Mary, who do you think should be nominated for Democratic leader? That's a tough one. I mean, Chris Murphy's been doing some good work. I've disagreed with him in the past, but he seems to be getting it. But I'm not really sure. I'm going to give that some thought, because it's not just like it's who I think, but also who could get it, which is a little bit of a trickier calculus. So it's a great question, though. It can't be any of those 10 people, that's for sure. Deb, thank you very much, Deb. Question: do you think Donald will allow UAP UFO full disclosure? Is anyone in your family interested in UFOs like the UK royals? No, not that I'm aware of. My grandmother, being Scottish, was quite into the royal family. I did not share that interest, but Donald did, I guess. But no, I don't. I've never heard of anybody in my family having any interest in that whatsoever. But I guess things can change. Alexandra, super sticker. Thank you so very much. And if that's Mexico, which it seems like it would be, also sorry for what you guys are going through as well. And your president is awesome. All right, that, my friends, does it for us. Again, thank you for your patience. We are growing. And sometimes, there are glitches, but that's okay. It's great to be with you. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube, to the dwindling number of people able to find us on Twitter. All my Substack peeps, I'm very glad you're here as well. And everybody listening to the podcast, your comments are great. The super stickers, everybody giving us gifts. You help us so tremendously. I cannot emphasize enough how vitally important your support of us and of independent media in general is. And another way to help support us is to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and click that bell icon. That way you will be sure to be alerted anytime new videos drop. And like and share our videos as well. Because we are very, very, very interested in growing this thing, and we cannot do it without you. So thank you. Also to our phenomenal moderators who really help create this community, help us create this community that we want to be, and hope you do as well. Speaking of communities, I have a Substack. It's called The Good in Us, and I'd like for there to be more crossover. There's more room for commenting and interacting over there, so check it out. It's free. It is free. Yeah, I think you'd like it. It's I get to do some things over there that I can't do elsewhere. So we would love to have you there, just as we would love to have more Substack people over here. And obviously, and always, to my just incredible team who's been going above and beyond, and that's an understatement, especially the last couple of days. It's just been an extraordinary amount of work to keep this thing going and improving all the time. So thanks, guys. As always, I think it's Monday. I'm very bad with the days ending and why thing lately. I don't know what's the matter. It's Monday, though. So that's good. It's a new week. Anything could happen. I'm expecting all good things. So let's hang on to that. I will see you here tomorrow night. Well, actually, yeah, I will. But first, I'm going to see you here at 12 noon with the nerds. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, I will see you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern for Mary Trump Live, which is Monday through Friday, every weeknight at 6 p.m. And do not forget, we have videos dropping every day that I think you will want to check out. So thank you for being here. Have a wonderful night. I'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.